Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast of Istanbul Slush'D. I'm Burcu Ağma. I'm the co-founder of Connect Mind AI, and today your host as we bring together some of the most influential leaders who are shaping the ecosystem in technology, venture, and entrepreneurship. And I'm thrilled to have Bryan Kim with us here today, general partner at Andreessen Horowitz, where he focuses on consumer AI. He's also a board observer at 11 Labs, led growth at Snap, and shaping how we think about the next wave of consumer AI overall. Bryan, I'm so excited to have you here. It's such a thrill. And I would love to dive into consumer AI with you a little bit. I know that you come across a lot of different AI startups at a16z. What's the number one thing that pops out to you as an entrepreneur trait that would become a successful consumer AI product or a service?
So first off, Burcu, it's so good to be here. Let's see, one defining trait. It's funny. We're talking about a lot of the founders, and a lot of the founders I work with are all special, and I use this word "special" in a way where they're not normal. You know, if you're normal, I don't think you've been starting these companies and running at the speed that you do. So they're all like a little unique in their own ways, and I have so far failed to come up with a common trait that defines all of them, right? I would say they're courageous. I would say they're very conscientious and ambitious. I would say they are extremely excited about the space they're building, so almost obsessive. So maybe that's one thing where they show that obsession a little bit, and the obsession married with ability to execute, maybe that's what it is. But you know, there isn't like, oh, like our founder needs to be X, Y, Z. I think that's a little brushing with too wide of a brush. And ultimately, what I look for is I want to learn from our founders. When I listen to that short bit, I'm like, it's clear that you know your stuff. It's clear that you've done your research. It's clear that you went very deep. And those are the things that I love to see.
I love that you said we love to learn from our founders.
Oh, absolutely.
That's amazing.
My boss, Mark Andreessen, said it all the time where, you know, we get to be in a position of getting a glimpse into the future, and the news are brought from the founders to us.
And when we flip the coin from the founders to actually the product, from your time at Snap to 11 Labs to a16z, when you look at all of them across the board, what's one early signal in traction that actually tells you this is going to be a critical consumer product or a service?
Yeah, honestly, it's the number of people don't need to be large. It's a funny thing. I would say my saying has been some non-gameable number of people. And what I mean by gameable is a founder can know 100 people. And the founder can say, 100 people, I'm going to group chat you, and at this day, everyone create, everyone consume, you can do that. So some non-gameable number of people, but that number doesn't need to be large. And what I love to see is two things. One is the founder understands what their product's supposed to do.
Okay.
What do you want them to do? Right? Like that's an important question that I tend to ask consumer founders. Like when they download or use your product, what do you want them to do? And the second part of like, how do I know if it's going to work is one, I should, understand what the founder says, what they want the customer to do, and why that is an exciting use case. And the second part of that is, are they doing that? And that's kind of just numbers, right? Like I don't pretend to, be able to predict customer trends. I just said it in the panel too. Like I'm an observer, not a predictor necessarily. I can observe from a small number, and that's probably my strengths. And so I like to extract that information from the early sort of metrics to say, oh, you said you wanted customers to do blah. Oh, and lo and behold, the first day that they're using the product, they are doing that.
They are doing it.
Lo and behold, if they do that, they tend to be retentive longer term. So that's what I tend to look for.
And it's also really interesting because it seems like the secret sauce there is not just what the consumer intent would be in terms of what they need right now, but what the founder also wants them to do next, right, within that product, which is really interesting. Yeah. And I loved your interview when you said momentum is the new moat in consumer AI. I really want us to dive into that. I want you to kind of open up the concept to all the entrepreneurs that are listening to us right now. How would you explain the concept, momentum is the moat?
Yeah, the concept is that the speed and consistency of product velocity and distribution, those together, that is the moat. And the traditional thinking, and they're right, like network effect or, lock-in effect, workflow, and being the system of record and knowing the enterprise contacts. Like, yes, they are still important. Yes, they can be long-term moat. But if you bring it back to the current state of AI, where everything is changing so fast, just last week, right? Anthropic, Claude 4.5, Sonnet 4.5. Then Vibes dropped from Meta. Then Sora 2 dropped from OpenAI. Oh, and by the way, before Sora 2 dropped, they actually also announced that the integration with Commerce and ChatGPT. That's not a small product.
Definitely not, yeah.
Oh, and also Thinking Labs, or not Thinking Labs, sorry, Mira Murati's company, they launched their new product too. Just in one week. And these are some foundational layer of the Lego pieces. So if you're building an application layer and you're moving any slower than them, anything you build, whether you think you have moat or not, is just not going to stay. So I almost envision it sometimes as like this moving tectonic icebergs, and like the plates are shifting every week. And application founders are trying to go to one direction, and they're gonna jump on these plates, but the plates are moving so fast. So for you to say, I don't need to move that fast, I will be very thoughtful and crafty. It's just not going to hold in this specific era of AI. So momentum is actually the only moat right now. And this is a hard-earned lesson. I don't say this lightly. Like, there are critiques who say, it's all hype. Retention must be low, like product quality must be low. And I have the data though. So I know that the products that have companies that have the momentum actually have higher retention, higher customer satisfaction. But when I say this is a hard-earned lessons, this is a painful lesson from having passed and not having had invested in certain companies because they just seemed momentum-y. Was, they didn't think about retention too much. It wasn't like, this thoughtful, amazingly crafted product. And, coming off of a mobile era as an investor, I was like, oh, those are important. I'm going to stand down on these. And Burcu, I cry every day. I kid you not. I look at the mirror, I wake up, and I look into my eyes and say, what have you done? and I got lucky. I also got lucky because I got to work with one company that really embodies that, and that's 11 Labs. The product research and distribution speed of the company is incredible, and that is why they're leading in that important space. And I get to be in a position of observing them. I get to be in a position of regretting from my mistakes. And those together sort of coalesced around, you know what? May be controversial, may sound dumb, but this is what I see at this time of AI. And look, that's how I'm going to invest. And so far, I've been sort of very happy with the founders and companies that I work with.
This will be so critical for the founders listening to us right now, because I know that a lot of founders are struggling with that balance, right, of trying to keep up with the momentum, with how fast-paced everything is, while trying to also perfect their product. So that balance is so critical. And it was really important to hear all of those words from you. Now, I'm going to switch the gear a little bit towards our region here, to
Absolutely.
Turkey. The strengths here from design to development talent, the young population, from everything that you've observed here so far at Istanbul Slush'D. One, I want to get your thoughts on how the last 2 days have been here, with the entire ecosystem. But also, where do you see the biggest opening for a
Right.
global consumer AI play coming out of this region?
So maybe a few things. 90% of my investments are actually outside of Silicon Valley. So what I end up doing is I look for Silicon Valley ethos. And those are, not readily available, but they can be built anywhere where there's an ecosystem of startups, founders, investors, and angels. And so far in the last 2 days, what I've seen is Turkey has a lot of those elements. So one, the ingredients for that, Silicon Valley ethos is there. Two, a little bit of a macro observation, but, ChatGPT released this sort of data where 90% of all of its audience is actually outside of North America. And they got to that point in 2 to 3 years. If you compare that to internet, like internet, that's 20 years faster of being globalized than internet. So AI to me is this fundamental thing that is being diffused faster than anything we've seen before. So what does that mean then for the region that has a right ecosystem, the Silicon Valley mentality and ethos, where AI is becoming, globalized so quickly? The answer is you can build. You can build. And the answer is because AI is such a powerful tool in anybody's hands, what we're seeing is startups being built with far less number of employees generating incredible traction and revenue. Why not here? Why not here? Wait, what's stopping? Technical talent's here. The product velocity is here.
Yeah.
In those cases, I actually don't really see anything that's stopping the founders here.
That's super inspiring for all of us here. And before we wrap up, I have so many other questions for you, but due to time's sake, before I wrap up, I'm actually going to ask a question that I'm personally curious about.
Excellent.
What's like one key area or key project or service that you have seen that's very unexpected that actually surprised you in the consumer AI play?
I'm in the mode of like changing my mind a lot. I'd rather be right than, intellectually really smart. So I think what has surprised me is that I'm also in the business of following founders. And I've seen a lot of young founders building in hardware. Now hardware is hard. Hardware is hard. I would know. I worked at Snapchat and we had sunglasses.
You would know, for
and
sure.
it's hard. But I have a couple theories. One is that, and this is where it's surprising to me, and couple the energy behind it. And I think couple theories that I have is one is that younger generation who've watched Elon Musk and Palmer Luckey and Andrew sort of grew up sort of saying, you know what, we can do that too. So there's like a new permission that's given to build in that sector and succeed. And I think the second aspect that I'm guessing is, look, Apple has still been a little slow on a lot of the adoption on AI, and that's partially because AI is so powerful that currently doesn't run as well on smaller devices. Fair. But we did create an AI god. It is intelligent. It is extremely intelligent. It is great. It's much smarter than me, at least. And it's not quite accessible through your devices, then where should it live? What should it do? And I think that energy all together, coming together, is moving into direction of like, oh, what if it's like, you're wearing it? What if it's doing X? What if it's doing Y? And look, I don't know what will work. I don't. But I am very excited to see incredible young founders building in that direction, and I've been sort of observing that.
That's also really interesting of where that's going
Yeah.
and what kind of
We
to
will
keep
see.
an eye out for.
We'll see.
It was amazing to have you here, Bryan. Thank you so much for this podcast. It was really inspiring for a lot of the founders and myself personally. And we're really hoping to see you again next year at Istanbul Slush'D.
Amazing. Same. Thank you, Burcu, for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.